Hey YouTube, what's up? All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to do this last question, which was a question a lot of students got wrong on the previous video. So again, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. What's up? So this is a part B to grade 3, I think part 3. So there's got too many levels of breaking down here. So I'm just going to jump into this, and we have what's called a composite shape. So normally a composite shape, it's composite because we can do something like this. If we draw a line down here, we basically get a shape A here and a shape B here. And A and B together is the sum of the two of them. So it's composite. It's piecing together different things to get there. Okay? So there's that. The second thing is, and I'm jumping in to look at the illustration. I'm going to look at the illustration right now, just independent of the question and almost independent of the illustration. All right? What I just want to do first of all is just beat up what we're looking at. Okay? So it tells us this here is 5. Okay? So that means that this here, from here to here, this is also 5. All right? It's telling us this here is 4. So it means that this here is also 4. Okay? It's telling us this here is 6. So from here to here, that's also 6. Okay? I'm going to label this. This is length X. Let me make this 5 better. And this is length Y. Okay? It does not tell us that length. It does not tell us that length. Okay? I'm going to also call this here, let me change the color of the pen for a second so it's clearer. This length right there, if I was to do that, from here, the top of that, to here. Let's call that length Z. Okay? It doesn't tell us that length either. Right? So how can we figure out length X? We're ignoring the question again for a second. How can we figure out the length X? Okay, if you guys want to pause the video and try to calculate that. Okay, otherwise I'm just going to jump into it. Well, we have this 4 down here. So if we were to extend this here, it matches that. That's what that little tick mark right there is telling us. So it seems to me that's how we got this 4 here. So it seems to me there's a length 4 right here. And if we're trying to figure out what X is, well, if we know this whole length here is 8, then X must be equal to 4. Which means Y is also equal to 4. Because it's the same length, right? This is going back here. And by the way, it doesn't tell us these are rectangles, which is a problem with the question. It should say they're both rectangles. But let's ignore that for now. So that's 4, that's 4. Okay? We're left with this Z here. And by the way, there's another length as well. Let me make that brown. Let's see if that comes up all right. There's another length from there to there. Let's call that length L. Okay? Can we figure out that length L? And can we figure out Z? All right, so the screen is busy for a second, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase everything, just so it's cleaner, that we know what we're talking about. And we're going to finish trying to get those lengths. So it's not as cluttered, and you have a good visual of what you're being asked to solve or not solve. One more second. I want to make sure there's no clutter whatsoever on the screen. Okay, so let's go back and try to fill in some things. We said this was 8, and that was 4, and therefore this is 4. Okay, this is 4, and this was 4 as well. Okay, so what we're trying to do is figure out this here. And this here. Okay, so does anybody see any insights on that? So again, if you want, you can pause the video for a little and give it some look-sees. Okay, and I'll just continue. Well, it turns out if we draw a line here instead of the original one I put here, let's put it here instead. Well, if this is 3 and the whole thing is 6, then this must be 3, and therefore this must be 3. Right? Right? And if this is 3 and this whole thing is 5, then this whole thing is 2. And now we finally labeled all the sides. So let me erase everything once again and put all the numbers down without the extra stuff. And if you see it as a whole now together, it'll start making a little more sense to you. Okay, and we still don't know if this is where the question's going. We're only trying to explore this notion of combining composite shapes at this kind of way and level. So let's go again. This was 4, and the whole thing is 8. So this is 4, therefore that is 4, therefore that is 4. Okay, this is 3, and this is 6, therefore this here, I'm going to make it a dotted line, that's 3. Okay, if that's 3 and this is 5, then this is 2. So at this point, we labeled all the sides. So no matter how we draw the composite shapes, let me change the color one more time. And by the way, so if we drew the composite shape here, okay, we can get the shape A and the shape B fine. Because we know we have a 5 times 4 is 20. If we were looking for the area here, and we have a 6 times 4 here is 24. So if the question is about area, that's how we can do it. That's one way to do it. Okay? We could have also done it another way. So let me just erase those for a second. And do my composite shape like this. I could have done it across there and gotten shape A, done it across here, and this whole thing here. This whole thing here is B, and this shape is C. So A would be a 4 by 2. If we're looking at the area, that would be 8. Okay? B is a 3 by 8. And that's equal to 24. And C is a 4 by 3, or a 3 by 4. It doesn't matter which way we look at it. And that's equal to 12. And by the way, earlier, if you notice, we got 20 plus 24. So the total area of this inside part here would have been 44 square feet. So if we look at this here, we have 8 plus 24. That gives us 32 plus 12. That's also 44 square feet. Okay? So that's a way to solve this if that's what they're asking us to do. Okay? And the last thing I'm going to do is show you still something else. Let me get rid of all the red here for a second. Let's see, how can I do this? I want to keep those lengths of the sides there. Are all the lengths of the sides there? Yes, they are. What I could do instead is draw a super shape around everything. And again, I'm only approaching this as if the question is about area. So what we have is this 5 plus this 3 means the length of this here is also 8. So if we would look at this red square, okay, the area of that is 8 times 8, right? The area of the red square is 8 times 8. That's equal to 64, okay? And if I now take this area here, this A and this B here, well, we have 4 times 2 is 8, so I'm going to subtract 8 from there, right? What do we get? 56. And then this B is 4 times, we're going to subtract 12, okay? And get 44. So look what I did. So I can get the area by building it up. I can also get the area by taking the so-called super image around it and pulling out this part, because A doesn't really exist in the area and B doesn't exist in the area. So we have different ways to approach it. So that's what my minus 8 is about. That's what minus 12 is about. Okay. It turns out this is kind of a classic way to approach these. So which of all these alternates that I showed you is best? It depends on the shape. Okay? Depends on the shape. All right, so let me get rid of clutter again. And now let's try to actually look at what the question is asking us to do. And I probably should not have erased all this, because probably some of what I'm doing here is what the question is, but let's just deal with it as we come across it. Okay, so we pretty much beat the shape to death. So let's start looking at the words. A gardener is drawing plans for a new yard. Okay, what's happening? There's a new yard being provided by the gardener. She creates the picture below. Okay, this blueprint, if you will, is the thing to represent the size and shape of the new lawn. Okay, this is slightly confusing because it talks about new yard and new lawn. They're talking about the same thing. Don't get bent out of shape here. They're not two different things. The lawn and the yard is going to be this inside thing I'm scribbling on right now, right? This part here, outside here, and outside here, and over here, and over here, these things I'm scribbling out, they are not part of the new yard or the new lawn. Okay, this can be confusing to some kids because of the vagueness of what they're asking you guys. All right, so we're okay with the words here now. So how can the gardener find the total area of the new lawn? Well, we did that multiple ways. So we know the area inside here was equal to 44. I showed you a couple of ways to do that. If you didn't really grok, that's what we're doing. You can go back now and replay the past couple of minutes of videos. Describe the process you can use. I just described that process. All right. So you can use all the different ways that I just did to do that. This is about shapes. An interesting thing I don't really like about this question is normally you have to assume shapes are not the scale. All right. So we had to make different assumptions. And by the way, we can prove, remember I said before that it was not really clear that if we did something like this, give me 1 second, that if we did that shape A and B are really rectangles, but we can prove they are. Because if this was 4 and this was 4, then this length here has to be 6. So it's a 6 by 4 rectangle. And the same for over here. We proved this was 2 and this was 3. So this 2 plus 3 is 5. And we also proved because this was 8 and this was 4 that this was 4. Well, this is a 5 times 4. There's no question about it. So these are actually distinct shapes that we had to go back. This is now dealing with our 2D shapes, that these were indeed rectangles. All right, so this has a bunch of geometry in addition to the arithmetic, to addition to the equal parts, to addition to getting the area. All these kind of things were really flying about here, and things like that. Okay, and again, it was about your operations, about your multiplication tables, and things like that. This was less really about equal parts and fractions. Although we could do that, because if we know the area of A and B is 44, then the area of A is actually 20 over 44, and the area of B is going to be a 24 out of 44. And if we were asked to simplify those, let's see, 4 goes into here 5 times, and 4 goes into here 11. So the area of that would be 5/11ths. Okay, and if we just simplify this, 4 goes into here 6 times, and here 11 times. And the interesting thing is, we were to add them, we get 11/11ths. So we're proving that it's a whole by doing different things. Okay, and depending on how your question is asked, it might say what is the fractional representation of the area of subshape B within the yard. It will be 11/11ths. Okay, or if the person decided that they were going to add a new wing to the yard, which looked exactly like shape A, and you were asked how much more should they add for if this was C, okay, then the person would have to add 20 more, or another 5/11ths more, okay, which would end up giving us 16/11ths, okay, compared to the original shape. The original shape is A and B combined, okay, so the 16th 11ths makes sense. And if we look at that, that's 1 and 5/11ths, which makes sense. It's the original unit of a whole here, plus the new 5/11ths part that we added to it. So it all jives. The world is perfect, and math is beautiful, right? Okay. I want to get back to just pointing out this yard versus lawn dilemma. Okay, you have to resolve in your brain that they're talking about the same thing. A lot of kids get said, well, it said the yard. Is the yard, does the yard involve everything out here as well? Does it involve over here? They're talking about the same thing. You have to kind of resolve that. Remember on these questions that even though this vague and I should have probably used the same word, that when you're left with no other choice, you have to make very logical inferencing decisions here and decide really what is the only kind of valid approach to this. And the only thing that made sense is that yard equals lawn and lawn equals yard. Okay? I know in the real world that's not the case, but we're trying to take what you're being given, and just what you're being given was almost nothing. You have to do that analogy and compare it and say they're talking about the same thing here, right? You have to convince yourself of that. All right, guys. So with that, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel so you can get more goodies, and we can do the next part in a day or two, whatever. Peace out. Have a great day. I think it finished snowing, and yeah.